Alrighty, I wanted to go over the answers to this homework. This first problem was algebra based. It was basically making sure that you knew how to convert between different units and multiply different things with unit conversions. So the thought process here is that you have a zombie apocalypse. You and your friends decide to connect the tanker full of diesel fuel to the tank for the semi truck, the gas tank. And the question is, how far are you going to be able to go if you are going at 60 miles per hour? So the two different pieces of information that I thought that you needed to know that aren't easily known would be how many gallons does a tanker hold? And what I found was on something called Tankers of Texas. When I Googled it, it said 11,000 gallons was pretty much the max. So I ran with that. The other thing you needed to know was what is the MPG, the miles per gallon, that a semi truck gets. And I found on Aero Truck Sales 6.5 miles per gallon. What I then did was started working through the math. I found that we had 11,000 gallons. I put that over one just so that it was a fraction. And then I multiplied by 6.5 miles per gallon. What's beautiful here is that the gallons in the numerator and denominator cancel out, and you end up with 71,500 miles, which is exactly what I thought I would get because a certain number of gallons will give you a certain number of miles. At that point, I knew that I'd be going 60 miles per hour, so I wanted to find out how many hours I'd be able to travel. So I went over and did 71,500 miles, and then I divided by the 60 miles per hour. And when you are dividing fractions, you need to keep change flip. So I went over and did that. You saw the 71,500 miles over 1 times 1 hour over 60 miles. The miles cancel out, and you end up with a certain number of hours. The beauty of doing unit analysis is that you have things canceling out and you could see if your answer makes sense. So this says that you are going to be able to travel for 1,191.7 hours. Now at that point, most of you guys probably just divided by 24, knowing there's 24 hours in a day. I went over and divided by 24 hours in one day, so basically, I went over and keep changed flipped because when you divide fractions, you have to keep change flip, multiply by the reciprocal. I then had one day over 24 hours. It's pretty much the same exact thing as if you went over and just divided by 24. You could see the hours canceled out, and I was left with a certain number of days, which was 49.7 days. This is something that you should have covered at least in your science class with Mr. Hines, and then also in your Algebra 1 course when you're looking at different units and conversion factors. Let's keep on cranking. So on this one, it says you are building a basic woodshed with 2 vertical walls and a roof connecting the 2 walls. One wall is 6 feet tall, the other one's 10 feet tall, just meaning one is taller than the other. You decide it is a good idea to connect the walls to the roof with a metal brace. You are easily able to measure the angle between the 6-foot wall and the roof. It's 120 degrees. You want to pre-bend the other brace before getting up on the ladder because you're going to be 10 feet up in the air. What should you bend it at? When you look at this, you see the 2 vertical walls. Those are going to be parallel. And what's beautiful here is we know that when we have parallel lines being intersected by a transversal, you end up with the special types of angles. In this case, when you draw it, you can see those special type of angles are SSIAs. So it would be the SSIA theorem would tell you that you are going to have 60 degrees left. Okay, so your answer would be 60 degrees because of the same side interior angles. I said theorem. I think we actually say postulate, but that's the reasoning behind that one. Now in this one, I wanted to make sure that you guys were able to go beyond just having a figure where I already drew a transversal. I want you to be able to think through things. So what you were supposed to do here was draw any transversal. It did not matter which transversal you drew. I don't have a ruler and I don't have a protractor at home, but you can see that if I drew a transversal, I decided to look at the SSIAs. Now I just kind of winged it. That bottom angle looked like about 40. I should have had a protractor, and if I was able to be at school, that's what I would have done. I would have measured out that angle, measured out the other SSIA, and made sure that they were supplementary. You could have also looked at alternate interior angles to make sure they were congruent. You could have looked at alternate exterior angles or any corresponding angles. your answer should have been, in my case, it would be let me grab, where's my pen? The answer would have been parallel because of the converse. So you guys should have said converse no matter what, and mine was of SSIA postulate. Now you may have looked at AIAs, and then it would have been the converse of AIA theorem. And AIAs, AEAs, and CAs would have had to be congruent. You would have measured it out with a protractor. If you did SSIAs, then they should have been supplementary. As I said, I'm just kind of making up these angles knowing what they should be. They should be supplementary, and I picked two numbers that would be supplementary. So hopefully that made sense. As I said, I want you guys to be able to apply what you're learning to unfamiliar situations. So this would be one where you would have to actually know to draw a transversal and then look at the angles. This one was just being able to draw it out and figure out which theorem you were going to be using. And then this one was being able to just crank. It really wasn't hard math. It was just cranking out a lot of algebra, a lot of simplification and multiplying by conversion factors and whatnot. All right. Thank you so much for watching.